actually just won the best marketer on LinkedIn for the APAC region, which is
an entrepreneur that has been disrupting the lead generation industry through the world's largest
Nathaniel Bibby is an entrepreneur disrupting the way businesses generate leads online.
Joined by marketing consultant Nathaniel Bibby of Bibby Consulting Group. Nathaniel actually just won the best marketer on LinkedIn for the APAC.
Social media marketing award last year was recognised by the industry's LinkedIn Marketer of the Year. His name's Nathaniel Bibby, and he joined.
All right, enough of that stuff. How's it going, everyone? What's cracking? LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube are in the house. Drop in the comments, say hello, let me know where you're tuning in from. Hope you're fired up from that exciting introduction. What an episode we've got for you today. I'm joined by my good buddy, Mr. Neil Gibb, who, if you haven't come across Neil before, I've known Neil for must be 7 or 8 years now. He co-founded the HMO Property Co, which was the first company of its kind that I came across. And what they do is they have multiple tenants within a house, and they create these properties which are awesome, like studios for shared accommodation, and they've got all these cool designs that they've created and added to their process over the years, and they've been growing at 100% per annum for the last 5 years, which is phenomenal. But on the same token, it doesn't surprise me because what they've got is a phenomenal product. They're disrupting what is a saturated industry, property investment. Everyone's saying the same things. There's very few that follow through on it. And Neil's, been to a few of my events. He does a lot of personal development. We've done a lot of the same sort of personal development and had our first child at a similar time as well. So we've got a lot in common. And I wanted to bring Neil on to Monday Night Live to be the first guest in this, comeback of Monday Night Live. Neil has been on the show before to share some of his insights, not just about property, but also about entrepreneurship, growing a business, and life. I think we can learn a lot from this man. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Neil on. There is about a 30 to 40 second delay with the comments coming in, but I do expect you guys to be dropping in the comments saying hello. Michael, okay, how you doing, buddy? Welcome. Drop in the comments, guys. Don't be strange. I want to know where my LinkedIn family's at. And without further ado, here is the man himself, Mr. Neil Gibb. Welcome.
Hey, Nat. How are you, bud?
Thanks for being here, buddy. Great to have you here.
Thanks for the invite.
I know you're a busy man, so I appreciate you taking the time.
Anything for you, bud? Anything.
I appreciate it. We've got Steve Park-Smith here. Hi, mate. Thanks for being here. We're going to keep this interactive so people can jump in the chat as we go. I'm sure the conversation that we have is going to spark a few questions and comments. But before we get into the business side of things and the real estate, I wanted to start with the crucible experience that you had. So for those of you that aren't aware, there's a personal development program in WA, actually, funnily enough. And they do a program for men. I think they do it 2 or 3 times a year. There's about 6 or 7 men, and you go through this military SAS grueling training with these other blokes for a week. And it includes personal development. You end up at the end of it, you get in a fight with somebody, you get in the ring and box each other. It's a really, really grueling week. And I was lucky enough to do it after some encouragement from my partner a few years ago. And I encouraged Neil to get on board, and he did it recently. So, Neil, how was your experience?
It was incredible, mate. And I don't know if you can just see at the top there, we've got the knife that we got for finishing the crucible. That was from Brett, our shared mentor, who's been a real positive influence in shining light in my life. Great guy. We reached out to Brett hoping we were going to get some 1% improvement in our relationship. And we ended up with 2 kids, so 200% improvement in our relationship. But the Crucible event itself was incredible. Again, a group of men, all at different fitness levels, all at different levels in life, different experiences of life, brought together with one common theme that they all wanted to be better men. And led by Brett Jones, who's been through a lot himself in life and brings a lot of experiences. And shares them and helps men become better men, which is I think the world needs more of.
Yeah. What did you find the most challenging during the week?
When I went on the Crucible, I was in pretty good shape, so I didn't struggle too bad with the physical exercise stuff, and do go for a few morning swims on a Sunday morning. So getting in the water wasn't too bad either, and it was in the middle of summer, so that was pretty good. I would say the part where you have to stand up and just get grilled in front of coach, and he asks you all these questions, and all the other brothers are in the room. But all parts of personal development, isn't it? You need to get these things out so that you can get help from them by people that know how to guide you.
Yeah. Look, I know I wasn't in good shape when I went. I booked in and I was planning to get in shape before it, and before I knew it, I was there. And and look, the physical stuff was tough, but nothing compared to what you had to do. From the personal development, emotional side of it. They really break you down, and I found it. That was, challenging, but the most rewarding. We've got the lovely and beautiful Lacey Saville in the house, listening along with my daughter. Hello, Brooklyn. Gerald's up in the Philippines. Hopefully, he'll become a regular again. Gerald's been part of Monday Night Live for a long time, so thanks for being here, mate. The other thing, just before we get into the business stuff, is the CEO Sleep Out. You've also been doing that. You've done that a few times now, haven't you?
Yeah. And to be fair, mate, that was inspired by you. I've seen you do that a few times, and it popped up on my radar, and I thought, well, Nat's done it, so why not come along? Yep. We've actually done it 3 times now, and last year I took, I think it was about 9 or 10 people from my team, and we all slept in the stadium.
Wow.
On the board. Yeah, so it was good to get everybody else involved, and they really loved it. It's very humbling to get out there and see what people go through on a nightly basis that can't get access to housing, which is why we do what we do, right? We provide affordable housing options to the market for people that can't get into the private rental market or can't get into social housing. Yeah.
Did it change your perspective on things doing the Sleep Out?
Yeah, I think the lived experience stories that you get, and you hear people why they ended up homeless. I think that was that hits you quite hard when you hear some of the stories why people end up the way they do. I think sometimes we can fast to judge people when we see them walking down the street with a tent over the shoulder and a bag full of clothes or a shopping trolley. But when you hear the stories, they've just been through tough times, and sometimes when you get that far down, it's hard to get back up. Yeah.
No, I agree. Oh, good on you for doing that. The Sleep Out, for those of you that aren't aware, is where a bunch of business leaders, they don't have to be CEOs, but they call it the CEO Sleep Out. And you go homeless for a night, raise some money for the charity. Really good cause. And I've done it for 9 years or something. So, hopefully making a little bit of my own dent. We've got Yasmin Alec in the house. Thanks for being here, mate. Yasmin, for those of you who don't know, is one of the biggest influencers on LinkedIn at the moment. I've learned a lot from this man. Neil, where are you originally from? I should know the answer to this.
From the northeast of England, a small town called Middlesbrough, who also have a great football team.
Yeah.
I wish
we got here. Alan
Hey,
Conley.
Alan.
How you doing, mate?
There you go.
So how did you first come across HMO property?
Well, when I moved to Australia back in 2010, I came to Australia as an electrician. And my goal was to just come to a different country and work as an electrician and just follow the money my stepfather told me. And I got to Australia, I got into the oil and gas industry. I started doing fly in, fly out. And I remember standing on the platform of the Wheatstone project for Chevron and thinking to myself, this is everything that you've ever wanted. This is the pinnacle of everything that you've set goals for. And now you've got it. And I just felt unfulfilled and thought there was something else that I wanted to do or should be doing. And it was at that time when Facebook was starting to serve sponsored ads to your feed. And a lady called Dimna Boholt popped up, and she ran a community called I Love Real Estate, and they were teaching people how to go from wherever their current situation was to real estate investor by replacing their income with cash flow from property. So we joined Dimna's course. We followed the steps in the course. We joined a few other people's courses, One of the mentors that was working with Dimmer at the time, a guy called Ian Ugarte, he set up another course called the High Income Real Estate System. And my wife and I joined the High Income Real Estate System. And that's when things started to click into gear for us. And that's when we started learning about HMOs, more importantly, the fire alarm aspect, the insurance aspect. We already knew what they were because we were English, and the HMO is an English term. And so we started just following the steps in there. We did one property, another property, another property. And it snowballed into what it is today, which is 700 and something beds under management, and about another 500 coming through the pipeline at the minute. Wow.
What a story. So what did you say? The fire alarm, what was that? I didn't understand that. What was the fire alarm?
Yeah, so in basically, because we're using normal housing as shared accommodation, what we need to do to not only impress or tick the boxes for an insurance policy, but also to make the councils happy as well, is we put smoke alarms in each of the bedrooms so that if one smoke alarm goes off, it alerts everybody in the house. Yeah. And the reason we do that is if it's a family in that house and the smoke alarm goes off, the parents are probably going to go and get the kids and run out the front door. But if you've got shared accommodation, 6 unrelated people living in a property, and there's a fire in bedroom one's probably just going to run out the front door and not tell anybody else. Yep. So the intention with the fire alarm system, it's an early warning system. It's not a life-saving system. But it will alert everybody in the house that can all vacate out the front door and call the fire brigade.
Yeah, cool. Okay. And now one of the things that I've noticed about you over the years is, and this might not seem too special to you, but it is very rare, is you do a lot of personal development, but you're an executor. Like, you come along to my event, I start talking about podcasts. Next minute, you've started 3 podcasts, and you really do run with stuff. So I'm just curious, what made you decide to go all in on the HMO side of things? Like, what was it about HMO that got your passion fired up?
Yeah, it was being stood on that platform and feeling unfulfilled and know that I wanted something else. And I'd always been an electrician. I'd always been around real estate back in the UK. So I was the person that everybody used to ring when they wanted downlights installing or new power points putting in. So I was always around it. I knew how to improve it, but I just didn't know how to commercialize it. And when Dimpner was marketing her course, it was all about replacing your income so that you didn't have to work. And because I was unfulfilled in the oil and gas industry, I wanted that cash flow so that I didn't have to work. And I achieved that in 2019. I had a portfolio that was producing $110,000 of cash flow per annum. And that allowed me to step away from my job in the oil and gas industry. And because of the power of social media and people like you that were showing me how to use social media correctly by showcasing what we were doing, people then started asking me to help them convert existing properties. Then they started asking me to buy properties and convert them for them. So we set up a buyer's agency. Then people started asking us to do new build construction. So we started partnering with builders so that we could use our design and our expertise in finding the location, but using the builders to then build the properties for us. And we had the property management business there to feed all of the new build construction and all of the properties that we're converting into our property management business. And like I say, that's 700 beds strong at the minute. And we've probably housed about close to 2,000 people, I reckon, since we've set the business up in clean, safe, affordable housing.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah, I remember you invited me along to that night at the football. I got to meet some of your clients, and it's great because you see a lot of them are on their 3rd deal. It's obviously working for them. It must be very rewarding to see the impact you can have on, other people reaching their financial goals. So why aren't more investors doing HMO, do you think?
Great question. Great question. I think for a long time in Australia, we've been conditioned to think that making money is a bad thing, but not making money is a bad thing, but paying tax is a bad thing. But paying tax is a good thing. It makes you making profit, right? So for a long time, when people are paying too much tax, they go see their accountant, and their accountant says, what you need is a property so that you can negatively gear it, reduce your tax, but then you build a property portfolio. So the majority of the time when I'm replying to people's comments on my Facebook posts nowadays, it's because I say, oh, this property produces $20,000 a year cash flow for our client, and it houses 6 people in clean, safe, affordable housing. And people say to me, oh, well, you have to pay a tax on that. And I'm like, well, yeah, but the client didn't have to get out of bed, didn't have to drive to work, didn't have to work any harder, but all of a sudden they've got an extra $20,000 a year of income. You get 3, 4, 5 of them, and all of a sudden you've replaced your income. Yes, you need to pay tax on that, but you don't even have to get out of bed if you don't need to.
Yeah, it makes sense. So what do people need to be mindful of when they are investing in HMO?
Compliance is key. In Western Australia, we've got a state-based policy which allows us to have up to 6 unrelated people living in a dwelling without the need to change for classification. And we're looking at the biggest stuff at the minute. We've got a few things that we've got contracts on, and we're just running with our planning team and different councils to try and get them across the line. But 6 is a kind of sweet spot. So for a long time, we've just done 4, 5, and 6 bedroom houses. Compliance is one thing, but then safety for me is paramount. This is why we need to have the smoke alarms installed. So if you're going to go out and do this on your own, at the very least, please put interconnected smoke alarms in and a fire extinguisher near the front door, so that if there is a fire, everybody can evacuate the property safely.
Yeah. And talk to us about your big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yeah. So again, due to the personal development, I read a book called Scaling Up by Vern Harnish, and I was given it by our good friend, Mr. Kim Barrett. We did a mastermind at Kim, and he gave me the book, and I went out and read the book. And one of the things they talk about is setting a North Star, or a big, hairy, audacious goal. And they said to set the goal big enough so that it scares you because you didn't think you could reach it. So we set the goal at 1,000 rooms. And then by following some of the things in the book and focusing more on sales and marketing than operations, we started flying towards that 1,000 room mark pretty fast. And we thought, well, that maybe the goal's not big enough. So we changed it and we went for 10,000 rooms. So we want to try and deliver 10,000 rooms to the market by 2031. That's our goal.
2031. Fantastic.
2031. Yeah.
How exciting. We got Amber here from Cape Town. Amber's also regular. Good to see you back, Amber. Gerard, people from Borough. Is that if I pronounce that right? Borough?
Yeah. Borough.
Yeah, cool. The homeless would be happy to pay tax. Yeah, would indeed.
It would.
Absolutely. Okay, so along the journey, just from the entrepreneurial side of things, for the other business leaders that are listening out there, you've obviously grown quite a successful business. You've had a lot of growth. I have no doubt there's been several challenges along the way. What's one of the biggest ones that you could share with us, do you think?
Oh, how long have we got, man? I mean, the property market itself, we rely on, because we sell an investment product, we rely on the market to be moving in the right direction for us to hit our KPIs within the business. Yeah. But the market's also driven by fear and greed as well, right? And with interest rate rises and all the construction issues, which we had just after COVID, a lot of people sat back on the fence and they were just like, this looks too hard. I'm going to sit it out. I'm going to wait and see what happens. Yeah. Unfortunately, then people missed out on some of the biggest growth we've seen in Perth for a long time. So some of our clients got like 20% capital growth year on year for 2 years straight. And properties went from $300,000 to $700,000, $800,000, $900,000. But the challenges never stop, mate, which is why I'm so big on personal development, because every time I come up against a roadblock in the business, I just try and find that person who can either help me, teach me how to solve it, or actually just solve it for me, sort of thing. And years ago, I used to be the person that used to turn up in a seminar and I just sit through like a weekend seminar. But now I'm in a position where I can just reach out to the person that runs a seminar and say, can I just pay for a few hours of your time? I've got this problem and I need you to help me solve it. And I've got some really, really good connections over the years of working with some of the best coaches, not only in Australia, but I feel in the world. Yeah.
No, you would have spent several $100,000, I would imagine, at least on personal development.
Yeah. Easy over 250 grand. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about from like the business, like growing the business at that pace, 100% growth year on year? What are some of the things that you've had to overcome, to keep up with that growth?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem that myself and any business owner will have is getting the right people in the team. And I think when you're growing fast, sometimes you can rush and bring the wrong people in, and they might not be the right fit. But in Jim Collins' book, From Good to Great, the first thing he says is get the right people on the bus from the very start. And it's easier said than done, because I think there's a lot of people out there that should be professional interviewees, because you ask them all these questions and they answer them really good, and then you get them in the business, and 3 or 4 weeks later, and they're a totally different person to what they were when you interviewed them. So people,
and you're learning as you go as well, aren't you? Because there's no university course you can go to learn how to manage a team.
Exactly. So team is challenging. We've got a great team at the minute, but as we continue to grow, we need to expand. So we've got 26 people currently, and we're looking to bring in another 2 people to support the marketing team.
Brilliant. Okay, great. Well, what's your outlook for the Perth property market at the moment?
Yeah, the Perth market, I feel, is still primed for a trend in the right direction. I think what's currently happening is we've had a lot of investors. I like to think that the Perth market's in 3 segments. We had that sort of low to mid, and then the mid tier, and then the high tier. And if we put them into price brackets, I'd say the $300,000 to $700,000 bracket, which is where all the East Coast investors and buyers agents jumped in. And you got to think Rockingham, Mandurah, Armadale, Gosnells. They looked at them price points in the proximity to the CBD, and they thought these prices have got to drive up. And they did. They all came in. They all pushed them prices up. But now they're banging up against the mid tier, which is your sort of $700,000 to $1.5, $1.8 million region.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Now, these are the people that people want to live. These are the areas that people want to live in. But currently, the interest rates are so high, they don't have the serviceability to move from suburbs that they're currently in into these suburbs. So once the interest rate comes down, which we're expecting to happen in February, a lot of positive news coming out of the media currently saying that they're expecting the RBA to drop the cash rate in February. If that does, I believe that mid tier of the market is the one that's going to push first, and then that will then pull the bottom end of the market back up again. So I think we've got another 3 or 4 years personally, because until demand outstrips supply, supply outstrips demand, there's no way that the market can go backwards, because we keep bringing people in the country. They need housing, but we can't deliver it fast enough.
Yep. So question, what does HMO mean?
Stands for House of Multiple Occupancy, and it, again, was a term from the UK, and we use it in Perth because the definition of a dwelling in Western Australia allows us to have multiple occupants in there, so we just called it the House of Multiple Occupancy.
Yeah, brilliant. It's interesting. One of my clients is actually a property valuer, and he agrees with your perspective. But the reason behind it is he said, well, Perth should really sit around 70% of Melbourne and Sydney, and it's still not there yet. So still going to keep going.
I think so too.
So that's good news. So I can guess the answer to this question, but is now a good time to invest in HMO?
Yeah, I mean, my business partner and I, we're investing in it now. We've got properties under construction ourselves. When them one's finished, we're going to be investing in more again. The good thing about it is it's a cash flow strategy and not really a capital growth strategy, although you do get capital growth and cash flow. So if the market does decide to go downwards, I'm not too concerned, as long as it still produces the cash flow that can support my life, my bills, because that's why I invest. I don't invest to say I've got a $10 million portfolio. I invest so that I've got time and freedom to spend it with my wife, my kids, and anyone else that I want to spend it with.
Yeah. Okay. So talk us through how somebody can get involved. Like, what does the minimum investment look like? Can you go in with other people? What's the sort of entry level way that somebody could get involved in an HMO deal?
Yeah, there's multiple ways nowadays. In the early days, we were buying established properties and converting them, and we would have needed around $150,000 to $200,000. Because prices have increased so much now, and construction prices have doubled, them same properties, you're now needing $300,000 to $350,000, but you're in a fringe suburb. if you want to do a new build, that's where we believe the best outcome is, not only for the investors, but also for the people that are going to live in the property as well, because we've got a blank canvas where we can make all of the rooms the same size, roughly 20 to 25 square meters each. Nice and bright. They've got a kitchenette, ensuite, a kettle, fridge, toaster, microwave, double bed, little 2-seater sofa and TV. And it's essentially a micro apartment. And because it's a micro apartment, the people that rent these spaces pay a premium for them. And we've got rooms currently renting for anywhere between like $300 and $400 a week, which might sound expensive when you think, oh, I'm paying that for a room, but it's a fully furnished room with all bills included in an area that you could pay $700, $800, $900 a week for a 3-bedroom house that you then need to furnish, and you need to pay the internet and you need to pay the gas or the electric. So we generally price our rooms about between a third and a half of what you would rent a 3-bedroom house in that same suburb.
Yep.
So the new build, to do a new build now, you're needing around $300,000 to $350,000 in cash or equity. Yeah. Which again is a large chunk of change. So for people that don't have that cash, but people that are earning over $150,000 a year, then we have access to what's called the deposit assist scheme, where another company will put the 20% in, you then get an 80% bank loan, and you've essentially got 100% lend on the HMO. You just then need to pay for your stamp duty, the holding costs, and your furniture pack on the back end, which comes to about $100,000.
Oh, I need you to talk to my missus. That's awesome. Fantastic. Cool. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, that sounds great. And so the new build, obviously you can get those rental returns because the way you've set it up, so that they're self-contained rooms. And how do you deal with parking? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's a question we get asked a lot. With the new builds, it's easier for us because we've got a double lock-up garage, 2 car bays behind there as well, and we can generally design the dwelling so that we can get 2 more cars, if not 1 more car off the road. So we can get 4, 5 cars off the road normally with a new build. The established properties, they're always going to be a struggle because it's extra money that you need to spend to just get a parking off the road, and there's not much of a return on that as well. So again, that's why the new builds are better. It's a much better outcome for everybody. Yeah. Including the people, including the neighbors. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. I've got a comment here from Alan. Yeah, no, I agree. Encouraging comments there from Alan. Al's a good friend of mine.
Oh, cool. What platform do you use to manage properties certification compliance?
We use property software called Property Me, which helps us manage the compliance internally for all of them different things that are required.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Okay. All right. So when did you start HMO? Was it 10, 15 years ago?
I started investing in HMOs myself in 2015, like back in the 2014, start 2015.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
We set the property management business up in 2017. We set that up first, and then we set the HMO Property Co-op in 2018 because people started asking. Once we had the property management business, that's when people started coming to us for help. And we wanted to keep the 2 businesses separate. So we set up the HMO Property Co-op to work with the investors, and our property management business, which is now called Living Rooms, that focuses on speaking to the tenants, the people that are renting the rooms from us on the other end.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because that's really the backbone of the whole thing, isn't it?
It is. Anyone can go out and build a 6-bedroom property, but if you don't manage it correctly, and it's hard work, I won't lie. I think there's a book in it, to be honest. I think there's a book called Confessions of a HMO Property Manager, because the things that happen, so some days it's never gets boring in our office. It's challenging to manage because you're not just managing a property with one family in there. You're managing 6 unrelated people that might be from different backgrounds, had different upbringings, and it can be challenging. So we've got some really good systems in place, which we've built over the years, which really help onboarding the tenants into the houses, but making sure they understand how to live there and what's required from them as well.
No, awesome. Yeah, with all that experience. Okay, so if you could go back and speak to Neil Gibb in 2017 when he was just starting his business, and you could give him one piece of advice, what would you tell him?
Great question.
Thank you.
I would probably say focus on sales and marketing sooner, because we probably left it a little bit too late. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs do the same. We focus on the operational side of things too much. And I was the centerpiece for everything. I was the bottleneck for a lot of things in the early days. And working with, after reading Scaling Up and working with people like Kim and other mentors that we've had, Kerwin Ray was one of them. Rest in peace, Kerwin.
Yeah.
We learned that I needed to start to replace myself from all these different roles in the business, but we obviously needed revenue to do that. And because I was so focused on the operational side of things, it was probably a little bit slower. But if we'd have focused more on the sales and marketing and we'd have ramped that up to bring more revenue in, we could have scaled faster, paid more to get the right people in the seats, and then the business could have been a lot bigger than it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have any idea back then that you would be where you are now?
No, not at all. We'd set the property management business up to manage our own property portfolio. And we had, my mother-in-law was running that property management business for us. And I remember sitting at the dinner table with her one day and I said, look, we're setting up this property management business, but I'm still working and Joe's still working. It doesn't make a great deal of money. Like, could you manage it for us? And we'll just, like, if it grows, we'll just give you half of what it's worth when you retire. And she goes, yeah, I'm happy to help. And I kind of sat back in my chair and I remember saying, I've got a feeling that it could be pretty big though. And yeah, Paula retired 18 months ago, and we couldn't have got to where we did without Paula, because she was just a workhorse in them days when we needed, and we couldn't pay much money, but she just worked and worked and worked. And it's been incredible for helping us grow that business. Yeah,
I know you've got several people that have been with you since the early days.
Yeah.
The relationship you build along the way must be, quite rewarding.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we fast forward to 2031, and what's life going to look like apart from having 10,000 rooms under management? Life and business.
Life and business. So 2031, we're 7 years off, 6 years off. So 6 years off, kids will be 8 and 6. So yeah, I really don't know. I haven't really looked that far ahead for my own personal life, but I just hope that we get close to or hit our target of 10,000 rooms, because that'll mean that we've had some serious impact on the market. Yeah. And in the early days, I was really focused on how much money I could make, but now, after meeting the people that live in these houses, and like you said earlier, after seeing the journey that our clients go on, and we've helped some of them achieve financial freedom. We've had clients quit the jobs off the back of the portfolios that we've helped them build it. So, and then the amount of people that we've actually helped as well, if we can multiply that by 10 to get us there. Now, I really couldn't put my finger on how I'm going to feel when we achieve that goal, and we're going to do everything we can to achieve it. I feel like, the hockey stick, I feel like we're just at that curve in the hockey stick now, and probably just at that
right. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, you've got all of the things in place, to do it. You've got all the systems, all the processes, all the experience. You've got the foundational team. You got the big goal. So I have full confidence that you'll get at least close to it.
I'll try my best, mate. Me and the team will give it everything.
Yeah, cool. Okay, well, Neil, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. I think that's been really valuable. And thanks to the audience, everyone, for tuning in. Is there anything else that you'd like to add or, point people towards if they want to know more about how they can work with you guys?
Yeah, not only working with those guys, but just in general, as we said earlier, me and you have been friends for 7 or 8 years now. And I remember coming to your events in the early days, and like you said, I set the podcast up, the Perth Entrepreneurs podcast. You were my 3rd guest on there, and I was so nervous meeting you that I was actually calling you Nathan all the way through the podcast. So sorry about that. And why I was so nervous is you turned up and you were just all about creating content. You got your phone out, you put your phone next to yourself, and you just started recording it. So I've done that tonight, recording myself.
Yeah, okay, cool. Fantastic. Yeah.
So like you said, if you can get anything from this, I hope somebody takes some action and just looks into getting some more sales or marketing or just hiring the right people on the team.
Yeah. No, Neil's a great guy, guys. You feel free to network with him, whether you're interested in HMO or not. He's a good guy to have in your network, whether it's on LinkedIn or Facebook. Tune into his podcast. Is the Perth Entrepreneurs podcast still going?
No, we stopped at episode 97 because what I realized is I had a property-based business, but I was interviewing entrepreneurs. So I set up a property-based podcast called the HMO Property Show.
Yep.
And now I think we're on episode 130 something in there now. So I've had some great guests from all over the world, people from the UK, people from the East Coast of Australia. Done quite a few episodes on there myself as well, talking about the journey that we've been on and different articles that we find.
Brilliant.
And the whole idea is just to educate, entertain, motivate, and inspire everybody to invest in any property, not just HMOs. I just want people to go out there and take some action and build a life for themselves that they'll be proud of.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thanks very much for being here, Neil. And guys, next week, I'm going to be doing a presentation on the power of storytelling. I think Neil may have been to one of my presentations on storytelling before. Extremely powerful tool you can use in all areas of business, not just marketing. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys. Make sure you register on LinkedIn. You can tune in on YouTube or Facebook as well. But LinkedIn is where you can register in advance. So keep an eye out for that. And thanks for being here. Have a good week in business, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Neil.